Hello, today I will be commentating on some Dead Ops Arcade 1 gameplay from June 2016. Green player in this game is myself and I'm running the Fortune and Fortitude Fate. The blue player is Bluntman1631 who is running Host Friendship. Frenzy is the red player who is running the Furious Feet on a 3-bar connection for the most part. And finally the yellow player is I Am George 15 running the Firepower Fate under a different account. We decided to give Bluntman the Host Friendship for several reasons in this game. First and foremost, Bluntman lives in the central time zone, which in this case distributes the best possible connection to everybody involved. I get a 4-bar with him, George lives right next to him, so he has a good connection as well. And Frenzy gets a 4-bar at the end of each round and also during the very early rounds, but later on it's pretty much strictly a 3-bar for him. Frenzy originally overestimated the type of connection he would get with him and thought it would be mostly a 4-bar connection. So that's why he ended up offering to take the off-host feat in this game. So throughout the arena, we were playing very well and holding down the corners pretty solidly. And throughout the game, we were playing very well. But the problem in this particular round was that we had no pulls to assist us in the bottom left corner. And that's the corner you want to be camping in. And the zombies have pretty high health at a round like this. So for us to kill them all the while Frenzy was on a 3-bar connection and couldn't pull as many zombies as needed in a circumstance like this, it was definitely problematic. With so many players involved, it's difficult to split up the gold. Typically, if someone needs a few lives, they'll go out of their way to get a 2x or 3x score multiplier, and you'll have to be satisfied with that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to rely on free lives that spawn in. Both George and I played on the Xbox 360 versions of Black Ops 1, while Frenzy and Bluntman were playing on the backward compatible versions of the game on the Xbox One console. The reason I played on the Xbox 360 had to do with the fact that my game would have a very terrible lag issue every 15 minutes on the Xbox One. On the Xbox 360, I would get my console lag like every other person for the most part, every 2 hours, which is greatly preferable to every 15 minutes. Bluntman had the same issue on the Xbox One as I did, and since he was host on the Xbox One, all of us would have the terrible lag issue in 15-minute increments. Around this time, which was during the summer, I didn't have much else better to do, so I contacted Xbox support many times to try to figure out what caused this problem. Honestly, I was convinced that the problem only occurred with disc-based games that were backward compatible, because I had the same issue with my Left 4 Dead 2 disc, but I didn't have the problems with other backward compatible games which were digital. So I was trying to finesse them of a free digital copy, because I honestly thought it would fix the problem, but apparently other people have digital copies too and they have the same issue. It's very weird, because only a few people have this issue. I tried everything possible to fix it, but maybe only a new console would fix it, but who wants to do that just for Black Ops 1? Another problem I encountered after this game was that my choppers would be very slow on Dead Ops Arcade 1 Xbox One version. Another very odd problem that seems specific to the Xbox One, but again, only certain players have this problem. It seems to have occurred after they released some small update during the summer. Ever since then, the choppers would be super slow and you can't really move them around and pick up gold and protect teammates if you're not green, so it's problematic in that regard. We tried moving to the bottom right corner, but that's not something you want to do in this arena, and if the view is flipped, it's going to be the top left corner that you don't want to go in. But for this particular round, the bottom right was definitely a no-go. You see the corner has those electric poles that seem turned off outside the boundaries of the map. That's the distinguishable feature that lets you know, okay, that's the corner where the zombies are going to curl very hard out of the side door, so you want to avoid it. Also, you don't want to camp on the 2 top corners of the map, top left and top right, because camping on the top makes it very difficult for the feet player to move around. But of course, we have to keep trying different corners depending on where the zombies were spawning at that particular moment. George was getting pretty upset because he kept dying when we held the ground and camped, so I told him that we could move around if needed. But for some reason, nothing seemed to be working well for him this round. Some people have asked me what my favorite Fate to play with is, or what type of Fate combination I enjoy playing most with in co-op. While I do run a lot of Furious Feet, especially back in DOA 1, I honestly really enjoy playing the Fortune in a 4-player match. Obviously, I'm only going to take the Fate when I'm playing with players of a similar skill level, but there's more than just camping in the corner and being protected by teammates. There's a lot of responsibility and precision required for a Fate like this in later rounds. A lot of people play with it to around 99 or something like that, and of course it's going to be easy in those earlier rounds. But when you get to third playthroughs of arenas like Fish in a Barrel, Dogs, etc., Fortune requires the player to be more than just a dummy who mindlessly shoots over his teammates' shoulders. You need to be able to switch gears between being a support player and someone who takes initiative and can stay alive on their own and move around the map without getting in the way of others. As we moved around, I took more of an offensive approach with the Fortune Fate and utilized item pickups like the barrels and vehicles in an attempt to help my teammates and burn as much time off of this dreadful round. Frenzy, of course, is down to a 3 boost program here, which was definitely the smart thing to do for him off host, as he was able to maintain both high lives and nukes. So when I play 4-player games, I like to have the Fortune player get green as opposed to the Furious Feet player getting green. This is mostly because I think it's more helpful for Fortune to grab choppers in the later rounds with green and protect players for a full 40-second duration. More importantly, it's for the boss fight on round 120, so all the zombies are attracted to your chopper and your teammates can shoot the monkey without having to worry about the zombies killing them. A lot of other players, especially on PS3 in 2013, 2014, and probably even now if they played, would probably take green feet, but I think there's some sort of greedy logic behind that. But they might say that they don't want Fortune going out of their way to grab a chopper in the other side of the map, so maybe I could understand that. Some people may ask, why does Firepower always have yellow? And no, it's not because the yellow player has big arms and he looks cool with the Firepower gun in his hand. It's because the yellow player is able to pass lives on people who are above him in the chain, so he could pass lives to red, blue, and green, whereas green has a very difficult time passing to people below him in the chain. So that's the logistical reason of it. Firepower can make lives the easiest because he gets the most kills if you give him a multiplier, so he'll oftentimes pass lives to the Fortune, Feet, or Friendship player, depending on who needs life at the time. So right here we're in a difficult situation where we're deciding whether we should try to stay in the bottom left corner or move around. So we're kind of saying to ourselves, okay, if we get double doored, we need to get out of here as soon as possible. That's kind of our mindset. But people are not taking initiative and communicating very well in this particular round. But you can see we're getting a door at the left, so I'm like, okay, let's get out of here before we get a double door. But I grab a teddy bear and I get headbutted by a engineer zombie from about a mile away, which happens with the teddy bear because it's utterly useless on this game. But now we're in the bottom right corner, which I said you want to avoid as much as possible, but we're forced here. We're stuck. We can't really move anywhere. But now they're coming from the left side. Frenzy just died, but we need to get out of this corner before we get double door, because then we're just going to waste equipment. So I make the move to pull the zombies to the top, and that gives Bluntman a chance to go to the bottom left, and George could kind of lead the zombies into the pull setup that we have in the bottom right. That's the only pull setup really. We have one lone pull in the top left, but that's not really too useful. Now we're back situated in the bottom left, that's where we want to be, of course. But like I said, once we see zombies come out of one of the bottom 2 doors, we need to move out of there. Luckily I get a tank, so when I'm in a tank it's 40 seconds of relative safety. Obviously a chopper is preferable because everybody's safe from zombies, but with the tank I could pretty much plug a single doorway down pretty well, and all they need to do is worry about taking the left door with the Firepower and Friendship, which should be pretty easy, while Frenzy could kind of stay in the top right, top left section of the map. So regarding item pickups, you want the Furious Feet player since he's running the board to pretty much grab everything. Like mentioned before, if someone's low on lives, low would be like 6, like if you have 6 lives and you're close to making a life and you're due a free life, you're about to get a 2 life swing, you're going to be at 8 lives, so you don't really need gold. But if you're at 6 lives, you just got your free life, you earned your life, and you're possibly going to drop to 5 because it's a difficult arena. Okay, you need to get that guy gold ASAP. You need to get him some 2 times multiplier or something like that. Or hope you hit a bonus room and get it 3 times or 4 times with some gems. Regarding item pickups, once again, you want to give the Friendship player the chicken, or the Fortune player the chicken. Usually the Friendship guy because he's on the outer part of the camp formation. If you have Fortune with the bird, he's kind of pushing people with his chicken. It lasts the same for both players, twice as long for each one. The Firepower player can get it. It lasts shorter for him, but it's 2 Firepowers at the same time, so that's pretty neat. But sometimes the Feet player will grab it as well because it's just not worth going across the map to grab a chicken. That's a mistake a lot of people make, is they go across the map to grab something that they could live without. It's better to be safe than sorry. Why go across the map to grab a chicken, or to grab a pile of gold, or to grab whatever, if it's ultimately not necessary? If you're doing just fine in the corner, why move? Because you're bored? Well, that's the reason most of the time. But you gotta fight that boredom and just sit there. And it's not too boring. I hear a lot of people say that 4-player games are boring. You're just camping, you're shooting one direction. And yeah, it could be kind of boring in the beginning, especially if you do it a lot of times. But later on, man, it's some of the more intriguing stuff you're going to play in DOA. You know, I always say to myself and to others that getting to round 160 on a 4-player match in DOA 1 without stealing lives, that would be one of the greatest accomplishments ever done in DOA 1. Or DOA period. But nobody's been able to do that. Only one team has made it to 160. CP3, Be Like Fritz, Mr. Beast, and I Am George, who's in this game. But that was kind of a, for lack of a better word, a mockery of a game, because there's a lot of boosting going on, and it just seemed really discombobulated. CP3 with the feet. Who thought that was a good idea? But, you know, obviously Fritz, Beast, and George are well-respected players, and they played the best that they could. It was not a very good setup with the way everything was configured. You need to get CP3 out of there, kick him to the curb. Got to give Mr. Beast some sort of feat, maybe? Something like that? I don't know. But point being was, it wasn't a very well-played game, and it could be done better. However, I do think rounds 133 to 136, the 4th playthrough of the Crawler Arena, is tremendously difficult, especially for a 4-player. I think it would be more difficult than a 3-player No Fate, which Beast, Frenzy, and George did. Very great players, obviously, they make it look easier than it actually is. But the 4-player, man, it's just so many engineers and so many, you know, you have an extra player you got to worry about and take care of, and just so little room for so many players, really. You need to be in perfect accordance with each other, and that's where the real challenge comes into play. You need to have that sort of chemistry with your teammates. The thing about it as well is you're not just going to be able to camp in one corner. It's kind of going to be like this one round, but 20 rounds from now the zombies are going to have, you know, significantly more health. So you're not going to be able to hold down a corner if you don't have the best pulls, or even if you have the best pulls, you won't be able to do it because fortune is going to be rendered useless by that round. It's going to be difficult to camp, etc. So there's going to be a lot of moving around required, and you have the statue in the middle and other obstacles as well. They're curling out of the fiery door in the Crawl Arena. Factors like that are going to influence that, and you're going to have people playing at the top of their game to survive on low multipliers. And if they get a bonus room, you need to be able to get a high multiplier and keep it. You got to utilize your equipment perfectly for that sort of circumstance where you get that multiplier to where you can milk lives and then get back the equipment later. And a lot of people don't seem to view arenas or even games in that regard. They don't ask themselves, how do I improve and challenge myself further? They don't say, hey, let me take a challenge in Fate setup, or set a goal for minimal or no life stealing. They just sort of play and resort to boosting when the going gets tough. There's no way to get better if you just surrender or let your teammates give up on a tough arena. You need to keep practicing and get better. Or other people's MO might be to just boost from the get-go in an attempt to get a big score number next to their name, and they have willing accomplices along the way because those people want to be along for the ride and have a big round number next to their name. This tank that I'm about to grab is a contributing factor to the downfall of this game. I end up getting stuck outside the map. It happens sometimes when you brush up against a door with a tank on DOA 1, but it honestly happens so infrequently that it's not something you say to yourself like, oh, I'm gonna avoid brushing up against the door with a tank. Because like I said, it's very rare. Plus it usually only happens in the Crawler Arena. It could have been a lot worse, I suppose, but when combined with the Invisible Monkeys that we had next arena, I did not have nearly as many lives going into the boss round as I should have. I'm going to let the game audio with myself and my teammates talking for about a minute play so you could hear our reactions to the tank going outside the map.
He's not going to gain a life this round. And yeah, the chances of him passing the life to you are like very slim.
I am outside the map. I am.
Fuck. Gotta be shitting me.
That is really bad.
Zay 79. May 79, so if we have Invisible Monkeys going up there. Rock of shit. Let me see if I find a safe haven here.
I don't even... Are you in a box? Like, is there any way for you to get over?
There's no escape.
Nah, they're just not spawning down there.
Well, I was just asking if there was like a little...
What a joke, man! Fuck you, Dave.
And a freaking engineer just comes inside the door and clogged it.
What the fuck?
I suppose it could have been a lot worse. Luckily it happened at the end of the round. We ended up playing another game with the exact same setup a few weeks later, and not that the earlier rounds are important or anything like that, but we were playing slightly worse somehow and struggled on crawlers. We took a sleep break on the third playthrough of the Downpour Arena, round 101, 102, something like that, and in one of my more embarrassing moments, I accidentally unplugged my Ethernet cable. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but I would have to push my Ethernet cable several times throughout the duration of the game to ensure that it wasn't getting loose, because it was some really old cable that had some very odd issues. But on this particular occasion, apparently I loosened it instead of making it more firm. I don't know, kind of bullshit, but whatever. At least it wasn't really late into the game or something like that.
I know, yo, but you could have ended up at 0. Like, yeah. Yeah, that could have ended up a lot worse.
Alright, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this little commentary, and I'm going to have a short little bonus clip where I have a funny death.
Got
What
it.
a crock of shit.